How's it going, everybody? This is Xavier here, and today I want to discuss with you guys the true value and how this isn't actually great for the game of Overpowered. So what Overpowered is, we had a blog post that came out yesterday. I wasn't able to do the video then just because I was hanging out with my family and everything, but I definitely wanted to touch base on it because it's kind of a sensitive subject and something I was never keen on coming to the game. I was pretty vocal about that, and if it was coming, I thought they needed to kind of nerf down the attack and focus on there just because of how everything kind of functions in the game. So let's go ahead first take a look at this. Why Overpowered with so many layers of power progression and unintended consequences has emerged. Character upgrades don't impact battles as much as they should. They actually do. If you've actually gone against like a G20 Odin, you kind of know the value of that, and now throw Overpowered on it, it's pretty nasty. The hard-earned progress you make is in leveling up, gearing, and enhanced ISO 8 doesn't always translate into meaningful advantages in combat. It kind of does, especially if you kind of plan the matchup around what you're going into, as opposed to just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and thinking I have a higher power, I should win. It doesn't really work that way, per se, which we're going to talk about that. That's another topic. As a result, battle results don't always reflect the effort you put into improving your characters. To help restore the significance of your character progression, we designed Overpowered, a system that ensures your progression matters more in battle. This doesn't require extra purchase or additional effort required, it simply applies. So basically what this is saying, it's going to restore the impact, which there already was a significant impact. When you have a roster right now where people are putting G20 in several characters, you automatically get a huge benefit because of the power boost on that, and about 20% of your power is coming from that gear tier 20, and now you're adding in an extra 50% damage and focus. That's a 70% swing just by being G19 going into G20 or vice versa. Now, you don't get any health benefits from this. I'm pretty sure that's going to come with like a level 2 bonus that we end up seeing on here, potentially a level 3 where you're going to have a health, armor, maybe a resistance bonus on there. They can do so many different things because of the way the progress actually works. Now, something interesting to note on here is right now, most endgame players are sitting around the rank 10 because we have G19, purple 3, level 105. Now, if you end up having the 100, G19, 103, you'll sit at rank 9. I do have some characters on my roster that I use where I'm G18, and I'm going to be sitting at rank 5 for those characters. So you can kind of see how this really impacts the flow of the game. Now, if you end up going into where you have a blue 5 G20 105 character to where you fit the ranks of the rank 11 and rank 10, but you have that blue ISO, you actually are rank 6. So this tier list kind of matters as far as your ranking system. So if you end up switching your ISO from like that purple 3 down to a blue 5, you shoot all the way back to rank 6, and then you go into a matchup where you're going against somebody that has 105 purple 3, they're going to have Overpowered on you. So that's just going to make you really mess with your resources, and that's not really a big thing or a nice thing because it's really encouraging hoarding in a sense to where you need to manage your resources for gear again and your purple ISO. Because something else that was mentioned in here is that purple 4 and 5 right here is going to be coming later this year. So just like we had the Odin Dark Dimension on there for Dark Dimension 8, I believe that happened around April, September. It's probably safe to say we're going to have another Dark Dimension where we're going to be using that purple ISO probably around September, October, because we are about 10 days, 11 days, something like that, from Professor X coming out. So you add on about 6 months, that's going to be October-ish. So they're probably going to introduce the purple 4 and 5 a month before that so we can get ready for that Dark Dimension. I'm thinking probably about September is going to be when purple 4 and 5 come, just based on that roadmap. Now, a big thing that this is going to affect is our chase to Professor X. Sorry about that. So if we end up going in game, we had the Professor Xavier coming to the game. Let me scroll all the way over here. Where are you at, Professor X? This thing's all messed up. We are 11 days away from Professor Xavier. And with this, we do have these requirements to where we need any city character, Vigilante, Blade, or Oath. This should actually say Vigilante or Blade, Oath, and 3 other characters, because the Vigilante team doesn't work without the full team. They have so many things locked in their kit where you need the full team that I don't know how this is going to actually work in that city node. So I'm really curious how, when these Krakens end up doing that race, what they actually recommend the community uses. So I'm actually hoarding all of my gear right now for this, except for that G20 I put on Odin. We have any villain global, where it's Orcus, probably, or Apocalypse and Ares, something of that mix. Any hero global, Liberty, Old Man Logan, Jean Grey. Liberty's another team where we kind of need the full team, but we can kind of make do with pieces of those characters because they actually turned out to be a great team. Any villain cosmic, Annihilators, Mephisto, Null. So probably the 3-piece Mephisto, Null. Lilandra and Hero Cosmics. We need Lilandra. Then it's saying Starjammers, who just got another buff, which we'll take a look at that blog. We have Odin and Kahhori on here. So you can kind of see what is coming in this game. Now, if we end up going back to this updates over here, they actually just did a Starjammer update on here. This does not solve the issue with the Starjammers team. The Starjammers team still needs Lilandra to go at least second to get rid of all those positive effects. Otherwise, you're still punching into defense up, deflex, immunities, stuff like that. And that's their big issue with the Starjammer team. But they're being cautious because of the balancing issues by changing turn meters around. So what they end up doing is giving Havoc 5% health, 8% damage. I think this isn't going to make as big of a difference. Howard the Duck, 10% health, 8% damage. Lilandra, 6% health, 10% damage. That damage feels better, but if she's still punching into like a defense up with the offense down, going into Thanos endgame, she's still going to be hitting like a wet noodle. That kind of happened to me in the U32. Groot gets a 20% health boost, 10% damage. That health boost is pretty significant to keep him alive longer. Rocket gets a 20% health boost, 10% damage. Rocket here getting that 20% health does kind of help him. However, he usually gets those death bursts anyways to kind of keep him alive a little bit. But one of the big issues with the game right now that I wanted to discuss is there's a thing that I'm calling right now the post-Kahhori characters. So if we end up taking a look at these blog posts right down here, so I'm going all the way down to an absolute A-Force to be reckoned with, November 18th. If we take a look at this blog post on here, this is kind of the start to when they started making these kits where you need the full team, and that's really taking away a lot of the creativity and theory crafting that we actually have. So if we scroll all the way down to, where are you? We have 4 or more. Let me do a search for that. 4 or more. So here we go. This is on, who are you? Kahhori, right here. There we go. So in war, this character has 4 or more absolute A-Force allies. They cannot fill the speed bar for themselves or allies. Now, this is like the only mention of 4 or more in this kit, and it's locked in war. So people kind of didn't think that was such a big deal because Kahhori is such a powerhouse of a character, and she really turned into a great power duo with Ms. Marvel Classic. Now, if we end up jumping back over, the next team that came out after the Absolute A-Force, that ended up being the Uncanny Avengers, Mighty Avengers, Immortal X-Men. So if we take a look at this blog, there are so many things of this kit to where we need 4 or more. So again, if we search for it on here, Jean Grey, you need 4 or more. That already pops up on here. If this character has 4 more Immortal X-Men allies, reduce the starting ability energy of specials by 10. If this character has 4 more Uncanny Avenger allies, there's that again, Crucible Offense, 4 or more Immortal X-Men allies. And there's several callouts in this kit to where you need the full team to really function. Now, if we go back to the blog post that we're already looking at for the Overpowered portion, let me pull this back up. They actually mention on here theory crafting. Strategy is still key. Though impactful, this overpowered system won't displace synergies, character kit abilities, and counters, which are the backbone of Marvel Strike Force. So teams will still counter stronger teams in the right matchup and achieve exciting punch-ups. That's basically saying if you can outsmart your opponent's defense, whether that's in War or Cosmic Crucible, you can still get that advantage through theory crafting. So theory crafting, strategy, and learning about team counters will always remain a vital part of the game. The issue with this is that with the Absolute A-Force, we can take some of those characters away because we can just ignore the turn meters. So you can throw characters like Odin, Mephisto, Super Skrull, Ares with them, and really make that team still a powerhouse of a team. It does not work that way when it comes with the Mighty Avengers. You have to use the full team in War. Immortal X-Men, you have to use the full team in Cosmic Crucible. The next team after that was Liberty's. Let's go ahead, take a look at Liberty's kits on here and see what comes up if we type in 4 or more. So right off the bat, we have Falcon Joaquin. On enemy with Taunt, if this character has 4 more Liberty allies, fill speed bar by 5%. We have to basically use the full team to get this benefit for Falcon Joaquin. This next one here is for Patriot. If this character has 4 more Liberty allies, lower the max barrier of all enemies by 20%. That's not as big of a deal. We can kind of get away from that one. Falcons is pretty big though. The last one is War Machine, which we usually sub out anyways. If this character has 4 more Liberty allies, flip defense up, deflect, and regeneration on the primary and adjacent targets. You're still able to use like Peggy's kit, Patriot's kit. The big thing though is the on enemy taunt turn, you basically get that extra filled speed bar by 5%. That's pretty big. I have been using the full Liberty team. We are able to kind of sub out War Machine and ignore this portion and just kill them so much quicker because of what happens with the Liberty team. This ended up being a great team, not only in War, but they kind of found a home in a sense where you can use them in Cosmic Crucible, which is great. Now we have the kind of a redheaded stepchild elephant in the room, if you will, the Starjammers. I can't really pull up their kit in game. I looked through a lot of the blogs, but so much of their kit requires the full team that you can't really break them up. And they're not doing good in or they might be doing better in Cosmic Crucible. They're terrible in War. I've been breaking mine up to where I throw Havoc with the X-Men characters. I throw Groot on another team so that way they have to hit into them, get slows on them. Maybe throw them with like an Alpha Flight. And then we have Lilandra you can use on offense. Howard is kind of there, and Rocket just kind of sits by the wayside. Now we have the new team that's coming out, which is the Vigilante team. Now this team here is raising a lot of red flags because, again, so much of their kit requires the 4 or more Vigilante allies. Daredevil requiring 4 more Vigilante allies to gain Taunt. If this character has 4 more Vigilante allies, you cannot gain Bleed. On offense, with the full team, lower the damage of enemies with Vulnerable. There's 13 mentions of 4 or more, and that's kind of the direction that this game is going, which is why I don't really believe or buy what they're saying here about the theory crafting. The theory crafting is kind of going by the wayside by getting rid of these plug and play characters, and then you have to kind of deal with this. So what does this have to do with Overpowered? This on top of the Professor Xavier, so if we go back in game to where some of these characters are being asked to use in the Professor Xavier, such as the Vigilante team. We need the full team in the city, and that's going to be 5 characters that have skill gear. Well, technically 4 because Elektra still takes the Mystic gear, and then it should say Aura, Blade, and Oath. So with Overpowered coming to the game and the way these new teams have been since November, what's a realistic outcome for us to really focus on the Overpowered versus getting Professor Xavier? So right now, we have about 11 days until Professor Xavier. Cosmic Crucible got put on hold because of a matchmaking issue where we don't have a Cosmic Crucible for 6 days. That leaves us 1 week. If you're on the top end of Cosmic Crucible, you have 1 week of not facing Professor Xavier. So then we're going to be facing Professor Xavier in there. So what is a good kind of strategy to kind of work towards? What I've been doing is I have 1.43 million X coins. I've been purchasing the full top row now because we're kind of at that point. And if we end up taking a look at the armory orbs, I can kind of show you where my stockpile is. For bio, I have 16 syringes. I have 20 of the spectral analysis. For mutant, I have 20 of the ribosomes, and I have 29 of the phytonutrients. For mystic, I have 43 of the sigils. I have 44 of the geodes, so I can get one gear piece done on either blade or oath. Skill, I got the top 1000. I've still been buying the pieces, so I have 230 of the encoded datas. I have 211 of the microdots. For tech, I have 10 of the ore, and I have 54 of the pressurized tanks, so I need more of the ore. As far as characters that I'm looking to take in there, I'm still kind of torn, but I kind of figured I'll show you a little update for where I'm at. For the city section, Blade and Oath I definitely want to take. I don't know which other 3 characters I want to take. I do want to probably end up taking Punisher, so I'm going to actually put him in the versus mode. I got him at 3 diamond. I got him as a striker, and his damage output is 832k. His ultimate, he does 250 piercing damage on the primary, 250 piercing to all others, and as a striker, it's going to do another 200% piercing again. So he's kind of wreck shop as far as that goes. I'm just saving this, my T4s, because I need to get Elektra's ultimate done, so that's why I haven't done that portion yet. But I'm going to throw him in the verses. By the way, this new skin for Punisher looks chef's kiss. This is beautiful. I love it. I'm definitely going to get that. I don't care if it costs money. I'm going to buy that outfit because Jonathan Berthal is the Punisher in my opinion. All right, so there goes my tangent for there. But as far as other city characters that we're kind of looking at, I don't want to take Elektra in there. I'm probably going to end up doing like Silver Sable, maybe Hitmonkey, but I'm going to end up waiting until the Krakens kind of do their run. Something else we could kind of do is we're going to be able to do the G19 difficulty of all those nodes for the city, the global, the cosmic section. Most likely we'll be able to see what the node layout is, and then from there go in with our G19s, see how that feels before we equip any of the G20s. I'm looking at that as a definite option. Now if we end up going back into my verse and looking at global, this one here I'm not totally sold on. Hero, I have Old Man Logan for sure. I'm still debating if I want to take Phoenix. I might end up going more of the Liberty characters route because of how good Liberty's kind of surprised me. So if we end up looking at Liberty on here, the ones I'd end up wanting to take is Peggy Carter. So I'm going to put her in verses right now. Maybe Cap Sam. And then Falcon Joaquin, so that we have some healing portion. And then maybe Phoenix, or maybe I might throw Patriot in there. I'm not quite sure. The nice thing about the Liberty is we have a bio character, we have a skill character, and then a tech character, which I can use some tech. The skill is going to be a little dicey for me because of taking of 3 of the vigilante characters. If we end up looking at global verse and the villain tag for what I'm looking at, I have Apocalypse on here. I have Omega Red Phoenix Force, Agatha, Lady Deathstrike. The 5th one, I'm not quite sure who I want to end up taking. Maybe I use some of the Thunderbolt characters. Like I mentioned before, that movie's coming out in May. I don't think I'll be able to make it to global anyways during that time. So maybe we can slot in some of the Thunderbolts. Then the last section we have on here is going to end up being the Cosmic section. And you can kind of see, I'm not really throwing any of the G20 pieces on. I did the 19.5 on like Mephisto, Kahhori, Thanos Endgame, Gladiator, Gore, Shadow King. Those are kind of locks for me on the villain side. And then the hero side, I'm probably going to end up ditching Invisible Woman now because of how many bios started adding in here. Ms. Marvel Classic, I'm not sure, but Kahhori and Lilandra, they're going to be locks for me. But I'm still delaying any of the equipment that I'm being thrown on here for the G20 outside of Odin. So I'm going to end up doing that. To me, the Overpowered, making it to where Cosmic Crucible, I'm only going to have to deal a week outside of that. Then from there, I can kind of know what plan I want to end up making to end up equipping these G20 pieces and start getting that overpowered bonus. I don't really care about getting overpowered in war. We're kind of a semi-casual, somewhat we kind of push in Alliance War, but I'm not going to waste G20 just to get an extra week or two advantage in Alliance War. So that's kind of where I'm at with the overpowered in the game. I'm not going to kind of deviate from my Professor Xavier. He matters way too much. And speaking of which, there ended up being, let me pull up this Discord over here. So this Discord channel, Council of Watchers, Hogan ended up posting this last night at 2 a.m. and I kind of end up sending this out on my Discord, my Alliance Discord, a couple others. This right here, I don't know why the marketing team ended up doing this to where they show this Professor Xavier teaser, but let's go ahead and watch this really quick because the footage that we have on here is pretty interesting. So it did end up getting deleted from like the video portion, but you can still see on the Marvel Strike Force if you have the link on here. I'm going to keep the audio off because what's going on is it has in-game noise and that kind of breaks copyright thing. But you can definitely see the video on my Discord. This right here is actually really cool how you get to see all these X-Men characters. We got Jean Grey, we got Cyclops, Rogue, Jubilee, and then it kind of goes into the Dark Xavier portion that we're going to be facing. Now, if this was a full screen video, this would be amazing, especially since we get to see in-game footage of it. There we get to see Xavier's wheelchair. So shout out to you, Zero Cool Gamer. This is your chair. And right here, we get to see the glimpse of the Dark Xavier, how he's in red. Hopefully we can get like a costume of the red version, because I think that red version is really cool. So now we get to go into the in-game footage of the fighting, and it's pretty cool animations if you ask me. So right off the bat, here we get to see Madeline, we get to see Dark Xavier. There's a Cyclops. That's probably the Cyclops that we summon in with Xavier. So right there, you get to see some psychic damage where he's kind of punching them. There's an AoE. I think that blast that we got to see right back here, that's probably the passive shot because he has a passive where he does damage to people. There we get to see Odin. There's the big AoE shot. I believe that's the one where he gets the perma damage and the perma kill from you. So we get to see a little bit of a glimpse, but to me, this kind of killed the hype of the Xavier because we don't get to see the full outcome of what the fight's going to end up being like. But that's kind of my 2 cents as far as overpowered. In short, it's not a 50% boost in damage. It's a 70% boost in damage that we're going to be punching into. I'm not going to be deviating from my Professor Xavier. I'm just going to have to deal with 1 extra week of me facing more characters that have G20 on there. I do have a defense video I'm going to be working on for season 14. We have the spreadsheet that's going to be staying a thing as well. But let me know what you guys think. Are you going to be deviating from Xavier to kind of get a head start on the overpowered? To me, it's not really worth it, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. If you did enjoy this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.